The Mendocino Local Agency Formation Commission meeting of May 7th to order. First, I'd like to say for the viewing public that all our meeting documents are on the our webpage. So we'll start out with roll call, please.
Commissioner Rosenberg. Here. Commissioner Hamburg. Here. Commissioner McNerlin. Present. Commissioner Doble.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner McCowan.
Here.
Commissioner Brown. Here. Commissioner Orth.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here. Thank you. Public expression. Is there anybody in the audience that'd like to address the commission on an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to other business. You want to give us an update on the district alternate special district?
So we received one nomination, and that person will be seated at the next meeting. She sends her apologies. She was not available for today's meeting.
And she's a rep from what? She's a fire?
Ukiah Valley Fire District, I believe.
Fire district? Okay.
Yes.
Good. All right, we'll go on to item 4, consent calendar. I would like to pull item 4B. Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do have a correction in the minutes. It may have been stated this way, but I think it's incorrect, so maybe it stays. But it says that the Little Hoover, I'm on page 6 of 99, and under items for staff to address, second to the last bullet point, it was noted the Little Hoover Commission now requires every special district to have a website. However, Senator McGuire has proposed legislation. I believe that the Little Hoover Commission made recommendations. Legislation would enact it. And part of that is that to allow small districts to opt out. So that's part of his legislation, so they don't get pulled into the much bigger districts because they can't afford to keep a website with all the information that is being required. But I think it takes legislation. Little Hoover Commission can't require it. So that was my only deal there, and then I'll wait to hear you on financials because I have questions.
Anybody else in the minutes?
Well, a correction might be, it was noted the Little Hoover Commission recommended and the legislature approved that every special district have a website.
I don't think the legislation is passed yet, but that there is pending legislation.
Just the word recommend instead of requires would do it.
Yeah, that would.
Okay.
Recommended every special district.
Yeah.
So with that correction.
I have one more.
Oh, okay, on the minutes.
Yeah. Bob Kiefer, the newest board member of the Hopland Cemetery District, introduced himself to the commission, who expressed appreciation for his service. It sounds like he's expressing his own appreciation for his service. So I think that the commission also expressed his appreciation for service.
Or which?
Yes.
The commission, which?
Yeah, for which.
With those two corrections to the minutes, I would move approval of the consent calendar items 4A and 4C.
Very good. Is there a second? It is dealing with financial. We'll do a roll call, please. Actually, let's wait until the financial report. We can add it all together and do it then, or do you want to do these two?
We got a motion on the floor,
okay.
So you pulled it.
All right, we'll do a roll call, please.
To clarify, this is for just the item 4A minutes. Is that correct?
And 4C.
Did everybody receive an audit report?
I think so.
Okay.
Commissioner McNerlin.
Hi.
Commissioner Doble.
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Commissioner Orth.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes, thanks. With regarding to 4B, approval for the April 2018 claims, I just had some questions as well as some changes. One, just for the benefit of the commission, the fire SOI maps, I looked back from January through May and we spent, 31 hours putting together these maps. It just seems like an awful lot of hours to put those maps together, but just so you know, that was quite a bit. Legal counsel, the other thing that I wanted to question is how many LAFCOs does he split the cost with? Are you aware of that?
I'm not sure the total number. I believe he represents 6 or 7 LAFCOs.
Because it just adds up a lot. I think there's like 12 additional hours, you know, from him to split the costs. And I know he does, our $600 is set each month, but he will probably base that in the future on higher rates.
And my question was, because he's preparing himself to speak on CEQA, do a workshop, was that only for the, was it for CALAFCO or only the LAFCOs he takes care of? Was this a training session he privately put on, or is this something he did statewide?
This was for, the CEQA was a course at the workshop itself. So it was one of the presentations at the workshop.
But not just for the LAFCOs he represents. He was doing this statewide, and we're paying for his time. I find a problem with that. And I also, when he charged us for his time for Form 700,
Yeah.
I found that outrageous. That's a part of his responsibility to be to represent these LAFCOs. But I found that, as well as the PowerPoint, all the times put into that, all the work put into it, and, you know, when do these LAFCOs have a say, or did he bill everybody across the state? That's my point.
Carol and John?
When I read that, I was rather appalled, if you will, because he's asking us to pay for his time at the conference when we don't pay all the expenses of our own person at the conference. So, I mean, I felt that was just out of line. And I remember that in the conference I attended, he gave a presentation to everybody, and that's part of his professional status, and that's how he gets positions with other LAFCOs. So that's his own, that's his business, not ours.
But I just had a problem with it as well, and I don't know how we work this out. Maybe it's something that should go to
Is
the
that in his contract?
executive committee. I don't remember
What does it say
it.
in his contract, I think, is the
If he's
question.
working for all the LAFCOs, such as his research on water, on the reservations and going off the reservation. Can't remember exactly what the question was. And he said he has that from other LAFCOs. If it's us he's representing, that's one thing. But this, he's promoting himself as a professional.
Right.
And that should be on his tab, not ours. I don't think we ever had the opportunity to approve it or not approve it. We were just charged.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to his contract and see if that's specified in it.
Okay, John, you had a comment? And then
Well,
Carol.
yes, and I agree with all the comments and would recommend that the executive committee review the legal services contract. And I don't see that we are contemplating changing the contract, but as Chair Ward points out, in the future, this could come back as, gee,
Right.
here's why I need to increase my rate, look at all the work I'm doing
Exactly.
for you.
Exactly, that's what I'm concerned
Because
Virtually
that's
every,
in the contract.
virtually everything here is for his professional development, and he came to us as the LAFCO expert. And that, and certainly filling out the Form 700 is his responsibility, and it's kind of
Taking the-
disingenuous to work that into our billing, and it does appear to be laying the groundwork for, gosh, this is why I need to increase my fee.
Right. Kevin?
I just wanted to point out that while I definitely agree with the comments, and I'm not sure why he's putting down all of these tasks in his itemized list, he's not billing us for all that time. He's still only charging us the $600
understand.
flat rate.
Yes.
But it may change in the future.
It
And
could,
that
it
is
could.
in the contract.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out.
No, I
that-
understand. I just bring it up only because we need to look at the next time we come have a contract with him, that he doesn't add all these in here.
Yeah, that's fair enough, and I agree with the idea of executive committee reviewing this and maybe
Okay.
at least making that clear to our council that we're not sure why why he's putting these down on the list. But it doesn't appear that he's billing us for those tasks.
I mean, he's charging us for lodging, for goodness sakes, and we don't even pay lodging for Uma,
How
who
many-
actually works for us.
How many workshops are there in a year?
There's one staff workshop and then the conference.
Because he did charge us back in December for a workshop, his lodging, and then he charges again in April.
I believe that was for the conference
Yeah.
in December.
Okay, well, anyway, I bring it up, apparently you guys are seeing the same things I saw, so I wanted to bring that to the attention of the commission for future, and the executive committee will review it.
And I do really question the add-on for the workshop registration and hotel. So again,
And this
when
is the
the
second time he's
executive
done it.
committee reviews the contract, did we obligate ourselves for
Yeah.
that? Otherwise, he should only be paid $600.
What I'd like to do, and maybe we'll talk about the executive committee, is add up all the hours that were pertinent to us specifically and see what his costs would have been.
500 an hour.
Yeah.
This is 1.2 hours out of all this list.
Okay. The other two items that I had was just bring it to the attention that our video recording is up to budget. We have 2 more months left of that, but we're actually to budget. And our basic services you only have 1 month that I could tell with 2 months remaining. I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well. So what was your plan, to do a month for free, or?
We'll scale my plan was to scale the workload accordingly.
Okay. And last on our financial report, or the monthly recap thing, rent should be $445 and not $415. We've always added the $30 for the office room and just reduce office expense by the $30. So we're consistent in our presentation. And that's all I had. Any other comment? I'll entertain a motion. John?
With regard to the legal services bill, because I don't know the answer, we might approve item 4B with direction that the chair review the contract in light of the workshop cost and whether that's something we're obligated to pay. Because in addition to the 600 flat fee, there's another 224 for the workshop.
Right. Carrie?
So you're saying just have the chair do it rather than the executive committee?
Well, on that one item, and then maybe have the executive committee consider the entire contract and what it provides for.
Do you have a motion?
I mean, just as a time factor, because the bill is due by the 15th.
Right. I can check it today or tomorrow.
So I would move approval of item 4B on the consent calendar, subject to the chair reviewing and approving the additional charge for legal services for workshop, registration, and hotel.
I'll second.
Second? Everybody understand it? Okay, we'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner McNarland? Commissioner Doble?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes, I'll check that today or tomorrow. Okay, we'll move on to item 5A, continuation of the public hearing to consider adoption of Resolution 2017-1807, approving the multi-district fire protection service sphere of influence update for 13 fire districts. So I need to probably state that this is a continuation. We did technically close the public hearing. Is that
Close the public comment, correct.
So I will still take public comment. Piercy folks, you got anything to add? Okay. Anybody else in the audience would like to put in public comment on the 13 districts? Okay, we'll take it back to Uma. You want to wrap it up?
Thank you. So let's see, let me start with a couple of weeks ago, staff sent a track changes version to the commission so that they could see what exactly had been changed in the document. The document in the packet today is the clean and final version, pending any further direction from the commission. This item starts on page 15 of your packet, and we itemized the changes that were made, 1 through 6 were commission direction. Then on page 16 of your packet, we had made some additional revisions at the staff level. That was to update financial information for the Leggett Valley and Long Valley Fire Protection Districts based on audits that were received after the April 2nd meeting. We went through and made sure that the Redwood Valley Calpella Fire District, that protection had been removed from all references. That went towards, we worked with County GIS to make those changes consistent on all the maps as well. We also provided consistent listing of all district services in the 13 district-specific sections, and added references throughout the document back to section 1.5, where there's a general discussion on Mendocino CALAFCO policies, keeping the specific discussions in each of the districts. We did clarified section 1.7 to correctly reference the disadvantaged unincorporated community income levels as qualifying less than 80%. And then we revised the current financial audits and the financial summary tables for those that did not provide audits to clarify that. And then we went through and corrected minor typos and references throughout the document. So what's before you is a clean version along with the draft resolution.
Carrie?
I just wanted to check. Covelo, Long Valley, and Leggett, I don't know if you said this or not, because I was going back to look in the minutes, but they finally came through. I mean, they gave you financial information, but it was after the publication.
Not from Covelo, but from Long Valley and Leggett, yes.
Okay, and so what is the status of Covelo?
My recollection is that their audit was not going to be prepared in time for this document, but they are working on that.
Okay, and then Comshy and Mendocino, they were waiting for their final audits to come back, correct?
Correct.
Have we received any information?
Not yet. They are still, they're still with their auditor.
Okay, and Potter Valley, we have received nothing, but when I inquired about it, my memory of the response back was it's the community service district, and the fire chief was having to go to them, and I haven't heard anything since, so.
Okay, we have not either.
Okay, any more comments, Jerry?
Actually, my colleague here brought up, it's just a question of semantics, but Willits does provide dispatch services to the Little Lake Fire. The city of Willits does provide dispatch services to the Little Lake Fire Protection District in addition to CAL FIRE. And I think it says can provide.
Okay.
Yeah, that's 1.6.2.3, 1-7. And it's just a matter of, it says Willits can provide, and in fact, Willits provides.
Does provide.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? It met all your changes?
Well,
You hit 'em all?
staff absolutely did an excellent job, and it was very helpful to have the last round of discussion points separately addressed, so it was easy to reference them.
Yes, staff did a great job. Uma, Beth, you did a great job. Thank you. That was a biggie.
Our analyst, Larkin Filer, deserves the credit. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I had
Thank
nothing
her,
to do
too.
with it, so I'm giving these guys all the credit. It's wonderful.
You had to print them out. That was a big one, though. Thank you. Any other comments from the from public? Okay, we will have a motion then to approve.
So then we had only the one tiny correction?
Only one correction, I believe.
And it was just checking up on the
On the
financial.
financials, yeah. Don't be shy.
I'll make the motion. And do we have to do? a
You can
two-part
refer
motion?
to your staff report for the recommendations number 1 and 2 for language.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we have to do the number 1 too, Jerry.
But you can do that in one motion, I believe.
It would be on page 2 of 99.
15 of 99.
Oh,
Just to clarify, there are 2 documents. There's the agenda
Yeah.
packet, and the staff report is included in that. And then there is
The
the separate
recommended-
document with the
recommended
SOI
actions right
itself,
here.
and
Oh,
it's
okay.
also included in that.
the recommended actions, right?
So I guess make a motion to find the multi-district fire protection services sphere of influence update exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant Title 14 California Code of Regulations 15061B, paren B, paren 3, and approve the notice of exemption for filing. And the second part, adopt the LAFCO Resolution 17-1807, approving the multi-district fire protection services sphere of influence update and affirming the existing sphere of influence for 11 special districts providing fire protection services and amending the existing sphere of influence for the Leggett Valley Fire Protection District and Elk Community Services District.
That's one of our longest.
And one of, and the
Second.
small edit
Second.
that was noted, the City of Willits,
And the city of Willits
1.6.2.3. That's included in the motion?
Yes.
And the second,
Second.
Commissioner Dozel, that's included?
He
Okay.
beat you to it. Any other comments, John?
It appeared that, very minor thing, at least I think it was online, it appeared that exhibits A and B might have been reversed, or I guess in the packet they were reversed. But anyway, obviously that's something staff can check, and if it needs correction, can certainly do it administratively.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it was probably me piecing together the packet and put them in the wrong order, but thank you for the note.
Okay, any other comments? Do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes?
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Doble.
Yes.
Commissioner McNerlin. Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
I liked the enthusiasm, Commissioner Orth. That was nice.
I stated at the last meeting how my appreciation for staff. I thought it was an excellent job, too.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the public hearing for that item. Jerry, that's the longest motion we had.
Yeah, I
this
guess I
year.
should have just said
Thanks.
follow staff recommendations, but
No, it's good.
Maybe we
And
should have
thank
had you list all the districts out as well.
Thank you for coming down from Piercy. I hope you had other business to do than to listen to this. Thank you for your help as well on the SOI. All right, we will move on to 5B, public hearing for the final budget for fiscal year 2018-19. And I will ask that our have we done the public notice and proof of publication? Not yet.
Yes, we have, and it is in the packet. Starts on page 27 of your agenda packet.
Okay, good. So we will open the public comment at this time. Is there anybody that would like to comment on our budget in the audience? Okay, well, seeing none, we will close the public comment at 9:26. So we'll bring it back. Am I doing all right on this? I'm trying to follow my script.
I think you need to
This
call
is
it
new
public.
for me.
over here.
It's public hearing, Chair
Open the
Ward,
public hearing.
not public comment.
Well, that's not what
There is a
this
difference.
says.
First you open the public hearing, and then you open the
Oh,
public comment period.
Okay. I was doing better before. You guys didn't make me do
You were good at script.
Screwed
So
me
shall I
up.
note that the public hearing was open at 9:26 a.m.
Okay.
and then public comment opened and closed? Was that an accurate review
That's
of what just
accurate.
happened? Okay. Thank you.
Uma, we'll start with you.
Okay, we haven't had any comments from any of the districts, cities, or the county on the final, on the proposed or final budgets. There have been no changes since the proposed budget, and they are included in your packet on page 25 with the work plan on 26 of your packet. So just as a summary, this is the fiscal year 2018-19 budget for $150,270, which reflects the anticipated staffing services for day-to-day operations and conducting the work plan. The proposed expenses require apportionment fees increasing to $135,000, and the use of reserves and rollover funding to cover the difference. And I don't have anything to add unless there's specific questions.
Okay, any comments? Oh, sorry, Tony.
I just wanted to say that my wife reviewed our budget and thought we were a lean, mean machine.
Mm-hmm. It is
And that
late.
we get a lot done for not a whole lot.
I think we need to be aware that this is so lean that there might be overages that we have not foreseen towards the end of the year. So I would be prepared for that if I were the fiscal department of this organization.
Well, I will be reviewing after next month to see how we come out budget-wise. It was my anticipation when I looked at this a couple of months ago that we would have about $11,000 left over. And the intent was, I think we're going to take $7,000 out of operating reserves. So hopefully we end up with nothing out of our operating reserves, but we'll all know more next month. Okay, any other comments? No more nothing came up in the public there? Okay. All right. Motion?
I'll make a motion adopting resolution 2017-1808, adopting our proposed budget and work plan for fiscal year 2018-19.
I'll second.
Any other comment? None? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Doble?
Yes.
Commissioner McNerlin?
Aye.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that concludes the public hearing at 9:30. We'll move on to item 6, workshop items. This one is the Redwood Coast Fire Protection District Sphere of Influence update. Uma, you want to give us an overview of this one?
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking the district's office manager, Claudia Hillary, and the board president, Rebecca Golly. We do have a representative from the district here today. The last MSR and Sphere of Influence update for the district was adopted by the commission on October 2nd, 2006. So this is a full MSR update and Sphere update. This Redwood Coast Fire Protection District was formed in 1997 and serves the city of Point Arena and an unincorporated community of Manchester and surrounding areas. They have a boundary of approximately 135 square miles, although it should be noted that they do respond to a larger area per dispatch and mutual aid service agreements. The district provides the following services: structure fire protection, first responder for emergency medical and hazardous materials incidents, rescue and extrication, fire prevention, and wildland fire protection as a secondary provider. The district has reviewed the draft document and has provided feedback on the MSR SOI update, and those comments have been incorporated into the workshop draft before you as appropriate. The district is not requesting a change to their sphere, and staff is recommending a coterminous sphere to reaffirm the existing sphere. So this starts on page 31 of your agenda packet with the document starting on page 32.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any comments first? Yes.
I was looking at page 42 of 99, and top of the page, there's a description of the lands that's within the district's SOI. And I didn't see, and I think Commissioner Hamburg could give us the correct terminology, but the Mendocino College Field Station, because it's now functioning more than it ever has in the past. And then Do they call it the field station still, or coastal field station? I was trying.
You know, let me look that up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it does have another name that
Yeah.
would be preferable.
I
Just hold on
couldn't
a second.
find it, yeah, in my work, so. And then if you go down to, middle of the page, it describes the, state responsibility area with a few pockets of federal responsibility area. Where would that be? Was that tied to the old, pardon? But it's federal responsibility area, and there used to be a base there that is
Yes.
no longer there. So I'm not sure, I just want to know explanation of where.
I think
And-
it was an observation base of some sort.
Yeah. And it's now, yeah. And then I also have,
Page?
and this would be page 50 of 99, second paragraph. Elsewhere in the document, it says that the volunteer firefighters aren't paid, but in this paragraph, it says volunteer firefighters are paid a large percentage of these reimbursement payments, and the district receives approximately 25 to 33% from this funding. So which is it? That, you know, are they paid, are they not paid? I don't know if you want to comment now before I finish my further comments.
The representative might be able to clarify further, but I believe the intent of that is that the volunteers are not paid by the district, but they do receive reimbursements for strike team assignments.
That's right. That seems reasonable.
That's what they're referring to.
And I assume that, but we want to make sure it's clearly stated.
Thank you.
Because it does put the district under other responsibilities if they're paying that. So it should be reimbursement. Then if we go to page 52 of 99, and it is under 2.5.1, last paragraph there. It says no major development projects have been built that have significantly affected the district's provision of services, blah, blah, blah. Well, it may not have been new buildings, but certainly the naming of a national monument, and then also the BLM lands being open to the public, as well as the college's science field station. You know, it's going to add more people and more potential for more calls in that particular area. So I just wanted to make that point. I don't know how you clarify it in the language or would consider it. And finally, on page 53 of 99, I wrote a question mark, and then I went back and said, got it. And it had to do with a disadvantaged community. So this, you know, the city is not a DUC, but it is considered a disadvantaged community. So, and a DUC is the unincorporated area. So I finally got it, but we might want to make that clearer
Okay.
because
All
it
right.
was just confusing. So.
Thank you. It's good comments. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, just before we get off those comments, the word that's missing there is coastal.
Oh, coastal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coastal Field
Field
Station.
station.
Mendocino
Thank you.
College Coastal Field Station.
Very good. Thank you, Google. Thanks, Google.
Thank you, Google. I knew there was a word missing, but I couldn't remember what it was.
John, do you have some comments?
I do have a few. Page 41, there's a top paragraph regarding district formation. It says prior to district formation, services were being provided by, and then it names 3 volunteer departments. And then the next sentence says that registered voters approved formation of the district, which effectively merged the two volunteer departments. So just reconcile that. And then on page 42, Manchester Band of Pomo Indians of the Manchester Rancheria and the Point Arena Rancheria. Again, thanks to Google, I saw a reference that the name had been changed to simply say the Manchester Band of Pomo Indians of the Manchester Rancheria. And so perhaps staff could check that to make sure it's accurate. Because it may be that and the Point Arena Rancheria is no longer included in the name.
Okay.
Page 46. The table, duty officers, there's only one duty officer. 48 on the table. The ending fund balance for 14-15 was 224. The beginning for 15-16 was 197.
That's a good catch.
And then under revenues, taxes and intergovernmental are lumped together. And I think it'd be helpful to separate that out. And we may have previously said that we'd always like to see taxes broken out separately, including if there happen to be multiple tax measures. In this case, I think there's only one, but that ought to be shown separate from intergovernmental, I believe. And then, of course, we saw the spike in salaries and employee benefits, and a lot of that is attributable to those reimbursements for the strike team assignment. On page 49, first paragraph, district does not need, 2/3 of the way down, district does not need to utilize reserve funds to balance the budget. Do they have a reserve fund? There's other references to it, I think on pages 50 and 51. On page 50, it references under 2.4.2.1, it refers to capital reserve account policies, but that if there is a capital reserve account, it doesn't seem to show up on table 2.3 or on the statement of net position on page 51. So if we could just review that with the district and clarify if they actually have a separate reserve fund. Page 47, it looks like I had something. The first statement under the bullet points near the top, the district's vehicles and equipment are essential to performing district operations and therefore cannot currently be shared with other public fire service providers. I would suggest deleting that, since I believe those vehicles do go out on strike teams when called up. Page 54. I think we have another reference to the tribe at the bottom of the page.
Yes.
It actually refers to the Manchester Rancheria and the Point Arena Rancheria, and again, I think that might be one rancheria, although it might be bifurcated as to the land base, so that could be clarified. And then on page 56, I thought the review of the service calls was a good inclusion here, and maybe for the future for all of the fire districts, I certainly wouldn't go back and redo anything, but in the future to include this type of chart within the template might be helpful. So that's it.
Okay. I would like to say that this, the financial information, other than what John brought up, was done excellently. It's nice to see an actual net income expense plus the fixed assets expenditures. Hopefully it's a sample that we could use in the future, as well as the service calls. This is, we're getting much, much better on the information, and hopefully the other districts can follow suit. Any other comments?
Just on that summary of service calls, I believe all the departments get those reports from, and CAL FIRE, and they recently received those reports for this last year.
A municipal service review update, which is why we included more information, such as the service calls.
Okay. The representative from Redwood Coast would like to make a comment?
Very impressed with the way this all came together, and it certainly delineates exactly what we do.
Carrie?
And I would like to comment, since you're here, and this is page 58 of 99, and under 3.1.3.3 water supply, and it's in the second paragraph. It says the water infrastructure is in good condition. However, there are flow limitations in Zone 1, the downtown area, which has existing 6-inch water lines needing replacement. I would encourage the district, and I could turn the project in itself to the state director of USDA rural development, but I think you might be able to find some funding there to do that. There may be some match that you may have to make, but I believe the USDA rural development would probably give you a substantial amount to help with that. And I can help you if you'd like. I think the office is located in Santa Rosa, but for an organization that I represent Mendocino County on, they're looking for those projects, so the state director gets it, puts her people on it to see where you would fit in to receive the funding. So. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll write down some information, and I know you're not talking on the
Yeah, why don't you come up?
mic,
Why don't you come up and introduce yourself so we know who you are and you'd be on the
Push your
record.
button.
No, I think you just start speaking.
If that sounds an excellent idea, and if you could possibly either connect with our clerk, or I could mention it to her and she could contact you.
Okay.
Either way would be just delightful.
Okay, and your name for the
Name,
record.
please.
Rebecca Galling.
Thank you.
I
Yes.
think we need to let Scott, our own representative, know about this information. Unfortunately, he's not here today, because as the mayor, he should certainly be able to work on that.
Well, I believe it's the district that would probably be in accordance.
Well, I mean, it could still be assistance from the.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the water provided to the city is done so by a private person.
Bill Hayes.
And so I'm not sure how much we could impact or help or assist, but we certainly would be interested in researching that.
Well, and the assumption from the report would be that the fire hydrant system is the property of the fire district, but that may not be true. Possibly it's part of the Point Arena Waterworks, but
It's always been discussed
And
as
not
to who is
clear.
responsible for the maintenance of the fire hydrants. And although we certainly participate in checking them and inspecting them, whenever we do, I know that we are involved with that. It's just a matter of who is actually responsible for the maintenance, the upkeep.
so maybe staff could also try and check that issue.
Thank you so
'Cause
much.
I think it's important to know who actually owns the fire hydrant system.
So if one breaks, who's going to replace it?
Right.
Not service it, but replace it.
Yeah, and
Garrett?
just further comment, one of the reasons it caught my eye is because of the horrific fire in Redwood Valley and the rebuilding of the infrastructure for the Redwood Valley County Water District and the need for more pressure to do with fire sprinklers and also hydrants for the fire department. So, you know, they all kind of intermix with one another.
Well, your point is well taken insofar as that many years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when a new dental office facility was built at kind of the lower end of the town, the requirement was we had to have fire sprinklers, which we do, but we don't have adequate pressure to make those fire sprinklers work. So I totally appreciate this information, and I'll see what we can do.
Great.
Thank you.
I have a curiosity question. In 15-16, there was a significant increase in the amount that you billed for outside services, like 300 and some thousand. What wildfire was that? It says CAL FIRE and NOES. How come it jumped so much? Was that?
Well, I know we send out at least 1, 2, or 3 strike teams every fire season. And I'm not entirely sure because I don't pay attention to necessarily which fires are where and what their names are.
Well,
Could have been the locals.
It's
Lake
a
County.
moneymaker for you because
Yes.
it made a heck of an income.
We also
Net income.
cover a CAL FIRE station that's located in town. And so when their CAL FIRE people are called out, then we'll bring in not only a vehicle, but, I mean, our staff, but plus a vehicle to cover that. And is also reimbursed by CAL FIRE.
And Brook Trails does that as well. We cover CAL FIRE stations. And I would say once you send out a strike team, it's not necessarily one fire. They can be sent to several over the period of service.
It was just a big number jump.
Yeah.
That's all I was curious with. And it made the Redwood coast look pretty good, income-wise.
We do okay with those strike teams. That's how we.
Yeah, you're doing a
basically
great job. This is,
fund them.
financials they're one of the better ones we see for a fire district.
We have had for many, many years a very clear-cut and knowledgeable, experienced president in Judy Seymour, and she kept things going.
And I'd like to compliment you on all your policies and your discussions. After reading through here, your board does a great job, and staff.
Really work hard at it.
Keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
John?
Just one more thing on page 47, where I had suggested deleting the reference that the district can't, share with other public fire service providers. Instead of just deleting that, maybe add an additional bullet point to the list above, referencing that the district does send out strike teams, when called on, whatever appropriate language there.
And covers a CAL FIRE station when needed.
Got it? Okay, this is a workshop. We'll look forward to getting this one through public hearing next month.
June 4th.
Yes,
June
that's,
4th.
staff
Okay.
would like to, schedule it for public hearing June 4th.
All right, we don't have to take any action, so we'll move on to, thanks again for coming over. You guys both came from long ways away. We'll move on to item 7A, amendment to the alternate commissioner participation policy.
Move approval.
Second.
That was quick. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, hearing none, so ordered. 7B, electronic email and devices policy.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any comment, John?
Well, I do. I think there's one in here. They discourage any use. Let's see, is it item 4? use of electronic devices for any reason during the active portion of the LAFCO meetings is discouraged, as it creates a public perception of inattention to the LAFCO proceedings. And 5 of us are
Yeah, you guys are watching your stuff all the time.
5 of us are currently
We'll know 2 more over there.
reviewing the LAFCO.
It was noted that that's a new item on your desk today, Commissioner McCowan.
Well, it's
very impressive.
There was one large file that wasn't printed out, so this was where I could look at it.
So I just have to not give you the
But
paper.
so, you know, I think there needs to be some consideration of the fact that increasingly people are shifting towards reviewing the agenda materials online during the meeting, so.
Are you suggesting then deleting item 4?
Well, or modifying the language.
Well, and I'd like to make another point
Sure.
that may be a part of the modification, was the fact that Commissioner Hamburg came up with a name
Google it.
but to properly identify.
But I did it very discreetly.
Yes, you did.
He's not on camera.
Sub rosa.
Maybe what it needs to be refined down to is texting during meetings.
Communication or something.
So the intent was, this was something that was suggested by legal counsel, and it was exactly, it had to do with use of telephones in particular, I believe. I did catch that this morning, that, you know, we do use tablets and laptops. So we can refine that language if there's some suggestions.
So texting or communications, basically, rather than, because we all.
Well, yeah, we
all
can't
meet.
email each other back and forth, but we should be able to review the agenda materials.
Right.
Well, and there
Yeah, it is
was
just
one
discouraged.
big, huge deal that was in the news where they felt that a decision maker was communicating with the audience. So, and it wasn't being done publicly, and should be. So, you know, there's all kinds of perceptions people can pick up, and rightfully so, I would assume.
We're the only 2 without a device.
Isn't that nice?
Get my text?
I didn't get it. I don't have it. So how do you want to make some recommended?
Sure.
To suggest the language define texting as personal
And emailing?
And email.
during meetings.
Kevin, do you have something to add?
Should we pull it
I think we can move on.
We could, so let me make sure I understand. So change number 4 to use of electronic devices for personal communication during active portion of the meeting?
I think that would probably do
Yeah,
it.
I think that would cover it. Did you have something, Kevin? I just noticed you were.
Oh, I just think somewhere in here we should point out that it really doesn't matter whether you use your phone or your tablet, they're both discoverable. Someone could call a PRA request for your device.
Well,
whether
that's
you-
how they found out about
whether
this
you
one
use it or
official.
not.
Right.
They did do a PRA request.
Yeah. So that doesn't really, in terms of a policy and procedure, we should clarify that that's the case. And if Scott Brown
Does
has a
the,
different interpretation, then
does the second sentence on item 2 cover that? Or would you, should it be clarified further?
I think it does.
Yeah, I think that covers it.
I mean, not only texting, but I think, you know, checking your own personal email during a public meeting seems to me to be a person not being very attentive to what's going on. So that's an issue as well, I should think. You know, dealing with their own personal communications, well. I don't know, it's kind of telling people
With-
how to behave.
With
But I
number-
think email and texting cover that.
Yeah.
And that's in
personal
number 2.
communication, yeah.
That's in number 2.
Yeah, I think 2 did cover it as.
So we could probably delete 4 if we
Probably
wanted
delete
to.
4. I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Delete
I
4
think
is
that's
just,
the best way.
I'd
Well,
recommend that.
I don't know,
It's
I think there's a
discourages.
value in explicitly stating that use for personal means is discouraged. Let's see.
I think the
Yeah, 'cause
distinction.
2 merely says it's subject to discovery
Yeah.
potentially, and 4 says you shouldn't do it.
Because of the public perception that you're inattentive.
believe the distinction is 2 is just generally, it's not a good idea to use your personal devices, and it is subject to discovery. And number 4 is specific to during meetings. And that would be.
I actually like keeping 4, but with the amendment suggested by the executive officer.
Okay, could you reread that, please, number 4?
Use of electronic devices for personal communication during the active portion of LAFCO meetings is discouraged as it creates a public perception of inattention to the LAFCO proceedings.
Okay. Does that meet everybody's approval?
Yes.
Okay.
I amended
you
my
made-
motion to adopt that, and is the second agreeable?
Who was the second?
I believe
Brown.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Yeah, I said I agreed.
Okay, we have an amended motion.
Sorry, I forgot I seconded.
Do you want to amend your second?
Of course.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, John?
I had one more question. I didn't quite understand in number 5, the second sentence.
It is a
And
little
that would be
confusing.
confidential information, so at a minimum, I would suggest replacing it with confidential information. And then it says, may be deleted from a personal device without conformance with the retention policy if a copy has been stored in LAFCO records and will be available for the required retention period. So I'm not sure what that is doing.
Sounds like our lawyers.
Does that mean attorney-client Does that mean attorney-client, kind of like
Well, I
when we
don't
get
know
something
what
from
it
Scott?
means.
I don't know what it means either.
Our staff reviews when we do her,
The intent with this one was that, you know, there's a danger in carrying portable devices around and having them be lost or stolen, and the information being available on that device to anyone who steals or finds it. So the intent was to make sure that if you do receive something on your device that you carry around, that you delete it. But it also gets into the question of you don't want to be hiding information. So you are subject to search. Your device is subject to search during a public records request.
But if you
So
delete it, then you have a written,
So you,
written to back up.
right, so
a
you
written
want to,
document.
the legal counsel reviewed it and said that we want to be really careful about advising deleting any kind of LAFCO business from devices, so that you don't get into trouble with, Brown Act requirements. So this is the clarifying language that he added at the end of this, to make that more clear.
Does that help you, John?
Well,
More clear to a court.
I would think that if we have confidential information, it's probably because it was sent to us by LAFCO staff or counsel, and so there's probably already a record of it. And the first sentence says, commissioners and staff should delete all confidential information from portable or personal electronic devices in conformance with LAFCO record retention policies, which I assume would provide that there's a copy of the information available. So I'm wondering if we need that second sentence.
I think it doesn't hurt to keep it in because there are some retention requirements, and maybe it has to do with employee evaluations, and I mean, it could be a lot of different things, but we all know you can delete something and it's still available in cyberspace,
So how
but
about-
maybe not to the person that has stole your device.
How about this? We put a comma after the end of the first sentence and then say, provided a copy has been stored in LAFCO records and will be available for the required retention period. Would that cover it?
Is that a third amendment to the motion?
I would recommend that, since legal counsel did approve this language, that maybe we hold off, and so I can get legal counsel to review this and then bring it back for the next meeting.
That sounds like a great idea.
I'll withdraw my motion.
And second?
I think Teresa was first.
Teresa?
Oh, this is one area I have a little bit of expertise with because of all the attorneys in our special district. But it would be, so for instance, if the chair emailed our attorney and got a response, and it was because we're involved in some sort of litigation, but the email went only to him, so they don't have it. Before you deleted that from your device, you would want to print out a copy and then meet the retention policy for LAFCO. But under a public documents request, you never have to disclose attorney-client communications. So therefore, it's not part of a public records request. But LAFCO policy may say any communication, they would have to hold it for retention. But that would be an example of a direct communication that you could delete, but they would want to keep a copy of.
But it also has to do with personnel.
Personnel issues?
Records.
Kevin?
I just wanted to clarify, kind of elaborate on Commissioner Brown's comment about, there is a difference between downloading a document to your device's hard drive and having it on the internet. And so what I typically do is I don't download, if I do download those confidential documents to my hard drive, I do not keep them on my hard drive because they're in the cloud. They're stored online in the email, for instance. So I think the intent is if someone steals your device and can access your files, they can only access those files that they have. The files on your hard drive are very accessible because they're not protected. They're only protected by just a simple login password. The files on the internet are protected through firewalls and various other things. So I think that's the intent of that, is if you have this device and you're storing documents on the actual device itself, you're like a file cabinet for LAFCO or whatever agency you're representing.
Well, I like the idea of maybe bringing this back, talk to Scott Brown. Maybe we can get some specific reasons why number 4 says what it says and number 5.
And are the suggested amendments acceptable?
Okay, we can do that. I have the recommendations.
Okay.
If you could also maybe ask for clarification on cloud storage, because all of my LAFCO stuff is on. It's on the cloud storage. It's not on the actual device. So
they don't have to worry about it. I don't have a device.
Okay.
Get rid of your device. You don't have to worry about it. Just recycle the
Go
paper.
back to filling my office with mountains of paper.
Yeah. Hey, it's good for business. Okay, so we'll move on to, we'll move that one to next month and go on to item 7C. Commission will consider Policy and Procedure Committee's recommendation to approve Commission's 2018 legislative platform. Do we do this every year? We do, huh? I don't recall the last couple of years.
So yes, according to the policy that the Commission adopted last year for legislative platforms, a new platform will be reviewed and considered every year for adoption. It is based on CALAFCO's annual legislative platform. The Policies and Procedures Committee did review the CALAFCO ledge platform and also the draft before you today. It was substantially the same as the 2017 platform. CALAFCO did go through and make some changes to specifically call out prime agricultural lands and open space lands. I think in past years it was just said agricultural lands, so they called that out specifically. All the changes are consistent with the changes that were adopted by the Commission last year for the 2017 platform. So that is before you. There's one version attachment. The first attachment is the draft form that has the underline and strike through, and then the attachment to the resolution is a clean copy.
So I'm reading that there was 2 changes, basically, adding special districts and including consolidations.
Yes, that was essentially it.
Okay. Any comments? So, we'll entertain a motion to approve the Policy and Procedures Committee's recommendation.
So move.
I'll second.
Any comment? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, approved. Thank you, Policy and Procedure Committee, on the 3 items. We'll bring one back, though. All right, we'll move on to 7D, call to legislative action. Consider a support letter for AB 2262 as amended April 16, 2018 regarding the Coast Life Support District.
Thank you. We received a call from Sonoma LAFCO about this item just before the CALAFCO workshop. I did touch base with them while I was there, and then it was also discussed during the legislative update portion of the workshop. This has to do with the Coast Life Support District, which is a bi-county district. It does extend north into Mendocino County along the coast communities. They serve the Irish Beach area to just south of Sea Ranch. So that includes Manchester, Point Arena, Gualala, and 3 of the Native American rancherias. Sonoma LAFCO is the principal LAFCO for this district, and they prepared an MSR on this district, I think, in 2006. Over the years, the district operations have evolved so that they currently are also providing urgent care services, which is not specified in their founding legislation. So they recognized that themselves and decided that they should include that and went about it through legislative channels rather than through LAFCO. Sonoma LAFCO heard about it through some of the legislative analysts, and so has brought it to CalLAFCO and also to us as well. So they are working, Sonoma LAFCO is working with Assemblymember Wood to modify this bill to add in that, to add in references to the Cortese-Knox-Hertzberg Reorganization Act of 2000 rather than the Cortese-Knox Act. The district believes that they are not subject to the new act, only the old one, since that's what was specified in their formation documents. And also to add a requirement that the district seek a change of organization through Sonoma LAFCO through the an exercise for latent powers. Included in your packet on page 85 is the actual language of the bill. It did pass through on consent through the Health Committee in March, and when it came to the Assembly Local Government Committee, they did get the amendments included, and it was passed as amended, and I believe it's now on the Senate floor. So that is in your packet, and then there's a draft letter of support on page 87 of your packet for consideration.
You said it was approved by what branch?
The Health Committee?
Health Committee? And now it's before the Senate or the Assembly?
It is now on the Senate floor, I believe.
Okay.
For the Senate.
Who has comments here? Kevin?
I just wanted to draw your attention to the title block and to add our new LAFCO alternate member to the title block of the letter.
Thank you.
Carrie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my question or comment has to do with MSRs and SOIs, since it does cover a part of our county, southern Mendocino coastal. So Sonoma LAFCO does the SOI MSRs, correct? Do we have any responsibility to at least review that, since it's within our political boundaries, jurisdiction, whatever? I mean,
I don't
what's what? And
I don't believe there's an agreement in place. I know with other LAFCOs that have similar situations, they will put into place an MOU or some sort of agreement that discusses and lays out that the non-principal LAFCO will have, some review or input into the process. I don't believe we have that right now. It could be as simple as asking Sonoma LAFCO if we can participate in that process when they do the update.
I believe we have the same issue up in Humboldt County. Humboldt comes down into Mendocino County for something. I can't remember what it was, but
It's a health
The hospital
care.
district.
Hospital district. Carol?
Does this affect the Coast Hospital District?
No.
No.
I think this only goes to Irish Beach.
Yeah, it's Petaluma to Irish Beach. It's the only
Okay.
one.
Okay, we
For
have
livestock.
a recommendation for a support letter.
And of course, I fully support it, but the last phrase of the last sentence strikes me as kind of an odd tag on. And thank you for amending this piece of legislation. It just, it should either be a separate sentence or not there, I would think.
Period after AB 2262.
Yeah, that works. That's better.
That'd be cleaner, I think.
Okay. All right.
I've got that. Just to, maybe you could check the CC list, and if there's someone else that we should send it to, we could do that as well.
Any options there?
Is that
See anything?
McGuire's area too, isn't it?
McGuire's?
Yeah, CC McGuire.
Well, but it's currently in the assembly,
It's in
and
the
it's
assembly
Wood's
now.
bill, is that?
It's in the Senate.
It's in the
In
Senate.
the Senate.
Oh,
I think that would be a good idea to CC Senator McGuire.
Okay, thank you.
well, okay.
And
I
then-
guess the protocol is you send the letter of support to the bill's author primarily. Because if it's in the Senate, but it's Wood's bill, so we send the support letter to him. Is that, I'll leave that all
I
to
can check.
staff.
I can check on that with CalAFCO staff.
About our chairman of the board for the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Hamburg.
I was going to ask the question about, and I don't sit on any of the ad hocs that have been working with emergency services, but I think the counties do have a responsibility, so I think that's a good idea, so that we have it within our records.
Right. I think it needs to go to the county.
I would just add the chair of Sonoma LAFCO to the CC list.
Okay.
Now we're on 2 pages now.
They can do smaller
Change the
print.
font. Yeah.
Bingo.
I guess I'd like to move staff's recommendation with the changes.
Second?
Carrie Brown.
Half Carrie, half John.
We were singing together.
It was exactly the same. So, any more comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? So ordered. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 8, information and report items. 8A, work plan, current and future proposals.
Thank you. We have no change to the active applications or pre-applications. On future projects, we did note the change from the consolidation of 5 water districts is now 4 water districts in the Ukiah Valley area. I did meet with general manager for Russian River Flood Control District and Millview, interim for Millview.
No, she's.
For multiple water districts. Tamara Alanis, and got an update from her last week, or a couple of weeks ago. On the MSR and SOI updates, we have completed the fire districts as of today, which is pretty exciting. The Redwood Coast Fire Protection District will go to a public hearing next month. We are continuing to work on brook trails. We have a good start on the Ukiah Valley Fire Protection District, and we have initiated the Fort Bragg Rural Fire Protection District. The intent is to kind of go through these fire protection districts all at once to get them kind of all on the same page. So brook trails might drop back a little bit because they do have multiple other services as well. But we are continuing to move those all forward. Willits, there's a special study in progress to look at how to best address the out of area water services. So we hope to have that one come to workshop in August. And the mutual water companies, we have the profiles drafted, and we're in the process of sending those to the mutual water companies for review before we bring that to the commission.
Yeah, last month's minutes said you would be presented to this meeting, but we're still a meeting off.
We are still a meeting off. Part of that was needed to delay it a bit for the budget, and also we weren't quite ready to send it out to the water companies for review.
Okay. The City of Ukiah detachment from the Sand District, it's been 4 years. I know there's a lot going on, but would Ukiah like to have their money back and then resubmit it? No? You're not drawing any interest?
Yeah, I just think there's no
Do you
need to
have
do
any-
anything.
Do we have a timetable still? No? Okay.
I did meet with the City of Ukiah city manager and the community development director earlier this month, or last month, I guess it was, and asked him specifically about that, and he did indicate that it was best to leave it on and that they had intended to come back to that in the near future.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Carrie? Nope. All right, we'll move on to 8B, correspondence.
I don't believe we had any. Oh, we have had a couple of public records requests. We had a reissuance of the subpoena from the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District attorney. So we are working on that, and we also had a public records request for City of Fort Bragg records, and a gentleman came over and went through our files for that. Was there anything else? I think that was it.
What was he looking for Fort Bragg, the MSR or the?
It had to do with past annexations.
Oh.
He wanted to see, and he did come with a copier and scanned a bunch of information in.
Okay, good. 8C, executive officers report.
So I'd mentioned that that I met with the City of Ukiah. We also discussed the general plan update status, and potentially including an annexation plan in that process, as well as encouraging the CEQA document, them to make sure the CEQA document includes any sphere update hopes or plans. Attended the Brook Trails community meeting on the 27th, the morning session, which was a great meeting. The focus was disaster preparedness, particularly wildfire, and the secondary access. So there was not really much that came out of that for LAFCO, except that there clearly needs to be some coordination between the county and LAFCO about the process for boulevard districts and what that might entail. We did have the 2 public records requests. The CALAFCO staff workshop was a really good workshop. We attended some sessions on city and county annexations and the coordination and the pre-coordination that can go into that. There was a strategic planning session that was really good, and I actually wanted to ask the commission if there was a strategic planning session a number of years ago. Do people who have been on a while remember that? No?
Yeah, I recall something
Under
like that.
Baracco, maybe?
Yeah, I recall something like that.
Okay, that might be something that we can discuss at the executive committee level in the future. There was also a presentation on the agricultural preservation and LAFCO's role, and then a CEQA course, and then there was a discussion about the disaster preparedness and LAFCO's role in that, and the panel was Sonoma LAFCO and Butte LAFCO from the Oroville Dam scare that happened, and also Ventura LAFCO sat on that panel. It was interesting. LAFCO played varying roles. It seemed to be that the LAFCOs that were more closely tied to the counties had more of a role than the independent LAFCOs. And that's kind of more of a all-hands-on-deck approach that happened. One of the things I talked about was that LAFCO can be helpful in that if you carry or if you hold an updated contact list for all of the water districts, for example, that those can come in really handy when you get into a disaster scenario, and can help in the OES and the incident planning. And then the final thing was the legislative update, and there is a copy of that in your agenda packet at the end.
They've been real busy.
Yes.
Lots of bills. Carol?
We were making a list of the private water districts, if I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And has that been resolved?
Yeah, that's, we'll hopefully have that next month. The mutual water districts.
Company.
Tony, you had a comment? Okay. All right, we'll move on to committee reports. Policy and Procedure Committee met on April 9th. Thank you again.
Yes, we did meet, and we just considered 3 of those items, and one's
Very
going
good.
back for staff work, but
Could have worked a little harder on that one, though.
I guess so.
Thank you, though. Good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do have one thing to add for the committee, that we are getting ready to put together the updated Policies and Procedures
Right.
manual. So we're working on that. And one of the things that the committee is working on is including the list of the glossary, the list of terms again, that they kind of fell out of the last version of the Policies and Procedures manual. And they're an important part of the manual. So the committee's looking at that and how to bring that back in.
Well, that'll be nice. Thanks. All right, we'll move on to 8C, Commissioner Reports. Tony, you have an update on that Boulevard District?
The county supervisor, our 3rd district supervisor, reported some comments of legal counsel and their belief. They've basically moved aside the Boulevard District concept, and I think Brook Trails is still going to be pursuing it. I think they didn't think LAFCO had a role to play in a Boulevard District formation, and I think that's a communication we need to have with the county, because I think that's a misinterpretation of the facts. I do believe that we would probably be willing to seek any legislative fixes if there's any issues with the formation of such a district, to enable the Sherwood Road community to actually have a tax base that helps the county and the community improve Sherwood Road and a second access project in the future.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to, and if there's no other reports, 8F, CALAFCO Business and Legislative Report.
I kind of gave a report on this already, and the legislative update is in your packet. I'm happy to get more information if anyone has specific questions about any of the legislation. Just wanted to add that the CALAFCO conference is scheduled to be at Tenaya Lodge this year. It is, I think, I can't remember the dates, I'm sorry. I think it's beginning of October.
They're usually in October.
Yeah. And they are asking for volunteers to help on the planning committee if anyone is interested.
CALAFCO is?
Yeah. Yes, correct.
All right, anything good for the commission? We will adjourn. I'll work on my public hearing processes in the future.